A girl stares at someone with a serious expression and says she has decided to remove him from the group, believing that life is like a bad game. The girl says he can no longer keep up with the battles, while the two face each other from a distance, with the city and a strange formation in the sky in the background. The girl, leader of the group and at a much higher level, asks if he can hear her. He replies affirmatively, while the difference in strength between the two becomes evident. They recall the time when the four of them leveled up together. He comments about when he first arrived in Tokyo, expecting to find monsters, but realizing it was just another big city. She says she now understands that the place attracts both people and fortune. She says she did not tell the other two about what happened, and that the decision was solely hers. He thinks about the expulsion, remembering that the leader has that right, but that it usually tarnishes the group's reputation. He apologizes, saying he should have been the first to bring it up. She comments that she knows how bad he is at giving up and that he has always been that way since childhood, asking him to handle the paperwork. She offers to transfer part of the group's assets to him, but he refuses, asking her to use them to equip his replacement. The two say their farewells, exchanging final words before going their separate ways. As she walks away, he reflects that he already knew about the situation. The last expedition seemed suicidal, and without the help of the others, he would have died. Despite the danger, he hesitated out of fear of being separated from his friends. He walks alone, recognizing the difference in talent between them. He remembers that this had been pointed out since birth, until he entered the dungeons, but something inside him still persists. He looks up at the sky and admits to himself that he wanted to stay by their side a little longer. As he walks through the street, it is narrated that Keiichiro was expelled from the Holy Sword. Elsewhere, people comment that it took long enough for that to happen, and wonder how he had joined the group in the first place. As he walks through the city, he reflects on his role as a trap master, and how he ended up holding back his more talented companions. He recognizes this better than anyone. Bumping into someone strong enough not to even notice the contact, he realizes it was an adventurer. He looks up at the sky and thinks that if someone falls behind, they will be left behind. It is recalled that it has been 40 years since rifts appeared above Tokyo, the moment when some people awakened abilities and came to be called adventurers. On the subway, he hears an announcement about a special program talking about the future of humanity and the dungeons, highlighting the Holy Sword as the most famous group in Japan and the first to officially conquer 300 dungeons. He hears about the Tokyo Origin Gate, one of the 7 legendary first dungeons, which humanity has still not managed to conquer. Despite all the expectations surrounding it, he thinks that it no longer concerns him, until he notices something strange. Looking out the window, he perceives something unusual at the Origin Gate. A strange energy stirs, and suddenly a massive arm with symbols appears, emerging from the portal. Terrified, he reacts upon seeing the enormous creature emerging from the portal and wonders if anyone else can see it. The giant arm launches a powerful attack toward the city. He shouts for everyone to run, but before he can finish, a devastating explosion strikes the area, destroying everything around. Amid the rubble, he wakes up dazed and tries to understand what happened. He remembers the strange creature and wonders if the attack came from the Origin Gate, but notices that it disappeared. Injured, he tries to crawl to warn the girls before anyone gets hurt. He laments not having been able to keep up with them, and thinks that, if he were to die, he would have wanted to stay with them until the end. A strange voice arises, catching his attention. A mysterious woman appears before him, commenting on his pitiful state for someone considered the chosen one. She says that the fact he could see that creature could only be destiny. Collapsed, he asks who she is. The woman replies that perhaps she is his god or a demon. With an enigmatic look, she says she will think about it, and then asks if he does not desire something. She asks if they should begin, and using a tentacle to pull him closer, suddenly kisses him. As she kisses him, something strange begins happening to him, causing an intense reaction. She smiles enigmatically as he collapses to the ground, confused and powerless. She says she granted him power and expects nothing in return, letting him live however he wants. When he notices, she has already vanished, and he realizes that his injuries are completely healed, questioning if it was all just a dream. He finds someone trapped in the rubble and rushes to help, but as he tries to pull him out, a large part of the structure above begins to collapse. He drags the man to escape, but huge blocks begin to fall. Realizing it is another trap, he quickly thinks of a way to get out of the situation. He sees a new symbol called arrow symbol appear before him, something he never had before. He recalls the woman's words that she had given him power and wonders if this is a unique skill. With no time to think, he activates the new ability, arrow symbol, creating a trap to contain the debris and protect the man while shouting for him to get down. The trap is activated and detonates, destroying part of the rubble and preventing it from hitting the two of them. He observes the open path, relieved that he managed to protect them in time. He looks at the trap he created, realizing that it manipulates movement. Later, during the rescue, he is questioned by a man who thanks him for the help, but doubts his story about a giant arm, saying no one else saw it, and that, if it were real, the entire city would be in chaos. The man says he will consider what he said, but reminds him that he is no longer part of the Holy Sword and that the rest will be handled by them. Thinking that even if they believed him, they would not know how to face something like that, Keiichiro changes his mind and decides to head to a forest near Tokyo. He thinks that if there is something that can help the Holy Sword conquer the Origin Gate, he will act. Facing a creature called Melonboard, rank 0, he decides to test if he still has what it takes to fight alongside them again. He sets a trap to capture the creature, but the enemy manages to avoid it and attack, showing it would not be defeated so easily. He runs while analyzing the situation, recalling that trap masters cannot attack alone and only gain experience by making monsters fall into their traps, which makes them weak. Keeping calm, he says he has faced enemies like this before and sets another trap to capture the creature. He activates the arrow symbol again, launching the boar far away with the force of the trap and taking the opportunity to gain the advantage in combat. He watches anxiously as the creature is hurled with great force, causing a large explosion at the point of impact. He reflects that his ability can compensate for the weaknesses of a trap master, allowing him to force monsters into traps by touching them. Even admitting he is still weak and not used to close combat, he decides that does not matter. He clenches his fist with determination, realizing he finally achieved what he always intensely desired. He thinks that he wants to become even stronger, as the scene shifts to a warrior fiercely fighting. Annoyed, she yells not to distract her, while an ally asks her to flee and leave them behind. The battlefield is surrounded by countless enemies. An ally insists the warrior should flee, but she thinks that, despite what he says, there are too many enemies to simply retreat. He notices with surprise that he has leveled up. Reflecting, he thinks it has been a long time since he last managed to evolve on his own, and admits he had been relying too much on others. He hears a strange sound and thinks he should not stray too far from the area. He reflects on how, since the first portals appeared, monsters slowly began to invade the world. He spots a cave and realizes that someone is fighting inside. Surprised, he thinks that area should not be unmonitored. He hears the sound of weapons striking shields and concludes that the group inside is on the defensive. He considers contacting the association, but fears encountering monsters much stronger than the previous one. Not knowing the strength or number of enemies, he decides the best option is to wait for reinforcements. He realizes that running away would not help him reunite with the group. Even without knowing how strong the monsters are, and thinking he should be in full armor, he decides to go in to help. He activates a trap and runs toward the cave entrance, ready to act. The Nidus fights against several enemies but ends up being hit and caught off guard, while an ally shouts in concern, calling out to her. The Nidus is overwhelmed by the enemies and immobilized, left at the mercy of an attack while expressing pain and despair. A powerful slash cuts across the battlefield, driving the enemies away and saving the Nidus at the last moment. The young man appears beside the Nidus, asking if he can help. Surprised, she notices his equipment is top tier and is impressed by his speed, realizing he is an adventurer. He explains that he is not part of a rescue force and was only training nearby, offering help in exchange only for experience. The Nidus quickly accepts, and he realizes that she has been protecting the civilians behind her all on her own. The Nidus introduces herself as Reisei Ageno and asks his name, to which he replies Kagura Keiichiro. She reveals she is a paladin and prefers that he handle the attacks. When he says he is a trap master, she reacts in surprise. Keiichiro says he will handle the attacks and asks her to protect the others. He charges at the enemies but realizes they do not fall so easily when not caught by surprise. Keiichiro notices that luring enemies into his traps one by one will not be enough and thinks of creating an area attack technique. Feeling that he can do it, he activates a new trap symbol. Keiichiro combines his trap with a sword strike, creating a new technique called trap fusion. Keiichiro executes his new attack, arrow symbol plus slash, launching cross-shaped slashes that strike multiple enemies at once. After defeating several enemies, Keiichiro asks if she is all right. The warrior, surprised, asks if he is a mage, but he replies that he is a trap master. She is impressed, saying she has never heard of a trap master capable of attacking like that. Kichiru confirms that he tried the technique for the first time and it worked, receiving thanks from the civilians. He senses something strange upon hearing a sound coming from the cave and says he knows what is happening. When questioned, he explains that his experience tells him that when facing a large group, something worse usually follows. A gigantic and intimidating ogre emerges before the group, and Kichiru warns that it is a boss. Kichiru realizes that the ogre is far stronger than him and questions whether his trap will work. Determined, he asks Reisei to move the civilians away, and facing the enemy he provokes, "Come, ogre." The ogre charges at Kichiru, who sees this battle as his true test. He begins to prepare a trap, thinking that if trap masters confuse them, maybe he stands a chance. Kichiru activates 2 arrow symbol traps at the same time and, with determination, shouts for the attack to begin. The arrows from the trap hit the ogre directly, piercing through its body and making it scream in pain. The boy comments that its defense is weak and that he will need to attack from a distance. He holds daggers, saying they are not very strong, but they will still deal damage. He begins to throw long-range strikes, injuring the ogre, and thinking he just needs to keep wearing it down until he defeats it. The boy faces the ogre as it charges toward him, ready to attack. Meanwhile, further back, the girl decides to return to help, ignoring the other's warnings to get to safety. The boy notices the incoming attack at high speed and thinks he cannot dodge. The ogre's strike hits the ground hard, creating a violent impact right in front of him. The ogre notices that the boy dropped his weapon, but he quickly activates a magic trap, combining the arrow symbol with fire to unleash his next attack. The boy releases the combined trap, firing a powerful flaming arrow that flies toward the ogre at great speed. The ogre is engulfed by the flames of the trap, while the girl watches in shock, saying he has the speed of a rogue and the firepower of a mage. She thinks that this man will change the way adventurers see the world. The boy arrives at the Risei branch, the largest brand of adventurer equipment in Japan. He recognizes the name of the woman in charge of the place and remembers that he had heard of her before, but did not know she was the president's daughter. He also discovers that she is responsible for the Hokuriku branch as well. During a conversation at a cafe, the girl thanks him for the help and explains that during a reconnaissance mission, the monsters encountered were very different from what was expected. Since she sent her subordinates to a dangerous place, she felt she had to take on that role herself, especially since she had gotten her position thanks to family influence. He realizes that she was probably accused of nepotism many times. She says the reason for the meeting was not only to thank him and proposes to talk about business. Surprised, he asks what it is about, and then she reveals her intention. She wants him to sign a sponsorship contract with her. He asks in surprise if she really wants to sponsor him, saying he has no public relations and would not look good on a poster. She explains that she would basically just be supporting him. Then, she reveals her reason. She wants him to become the strongest of all. He becomes thoughtful and reveals that he was expelled from his former group. She says she sees the support as an investment, believing it will pay off in the future. He imagines that she wants him to become a high-level adventurer, realizing the great expectations she places on him. The boy thinks she was only trying to cheer him up and prefers not to say anything. He recognizes that, despite his power, he is still immature. The girl states that she does not care about the fact that he was expelled, as long as he did not commit a crime, and that she does not mind if he is not that strong. The girl says that he will become stronger. The boy agrees, thinking he will grow not only physically, but also mentally. The boy accepts the contract, and the girl takes the chance to ask which group he used to belong to. Upon hearing the name of his former group, Holy Sword, the boy reacts in surprise. The scene shifts to a woman sitting on a cliff, calling for Keiichiru. The woman, sitting on a giant skull, wonders how Keiichiru is. 2 members of the Holy Sword group, Ashitari Yukiko and Itomi Kukuri, comment that it was better this way, since they could not keep putting Kajura in danger for selfish reasons. Meanwhile, Keiichiru thinks it was the best thing to do. Kuchan is comforted by her companions, who tell her not to blame herself and assure her that Keiichiru would understand and would probably talk normally if contacted. Even so, she says that she cut off his life as an adventurer and does not want forgiveness, while another comments that she is always too serious. One of the girls jokingly suggests that it would have been better if Kuchan had proposed marriage to Keiichiru while dismissing him, saying something dramatic like, "I could not live if you died," instead of trying to soften the situation. She believes that in that case, things might have unexpectedly worked out. The girls talk, suggesting that maybe Kuchan expected Keiichiro to realize her feelings on his own. They comment that it was a good opportunity to get closer, but no one ended up confessing, and everything was left unfinished. One of the girls comments that even if it feels like it was just yesterday, many things will happen, and before they know it, they will be far apart. Then she asks Ku about a rumor that there are plans to challenge the Origin Gate, leaving her surprised. Ku confirms that there is indeed a plan to conquer the Origin Gate, information shared only with the leaders of the strongest groups. She explains that if someone is recognized as powerful enough, the announcement will be made public, and there will be a selection test in the fall, scheduled to begin in December of that year. They comment about a strange recent train accident. Kukuri calls Ku and suggests they quit being adventurers after conquering the Origin Gate. Yukiko says she wants to take Keiichiro to a country where polygamy is allowed. Kukuri and Ku are left confused by the statement, while the scene cuts to Keiichiro elsewhere. Keiichiro arrives at the place and asks if that was the dungeon. Toga Natsume, responsible for the site, confirms and explains that Lady Akeno transferred the dungeon rights to Kojura. Keiichiro asks them to prepare a low-level dungeon for him, commenting that he did not expect it to come with its own inspector. The inspector says she is only there to observe and will not be able to help. Keiichiro says he understands, prepares with his sword, and she wishes him good luck. Keiichiro tests the range and cooldown time of his abilities, planning to focus entirely on combat training afterwards. He thinks that if he masters the arrow symbol to strengthen himself, he could fight at the level of a combatant, even though he has never entered a boss room alone before. Keiichiro thinks of Ku, Kukuri, and Yuko, wishing to ask them to wait for him, but decides that he will catch up with them on his own. Inside the room, the enemy appears, a rank B Goblin General. The Goblin General charges, breaking the floor around and attacking non-stop. Keiichiro realizes that the entire room functions as the enemy's weapon, making it impossible to approach. Keiichiro thinks he needs to somehow get close and destroy the enemy's armor with a single strike, while running through the attacks and debris to find an opening. Keiichiro prepares to counterattack, saying it is his turn, and combines the arrow symbol with a powerful slash to strike the Goblin General. Keiichiro activates a trap, and at the right moment attacks, while shouting, "Now!" hitting the Goblin General and making it scream in pain. Keiichiro activates the technique Arrow Symbol X4, preparing a powerful and fast attack against the enemy. The attack lands directly, cutting the Goblin General in half and destroying its armor in a single blow. He finds another item left behind by the defeated enemy and realizes he has seen it before. Upon analyzing, he concludes that it increases fire element attacks. Even though he could use it along with his fire trap, he decides he will give it to Riesel. As he walks, he notices that he is slowly getting stronger. He thinks that if he had a group, he could gain more in higher level areas. Suddenly, he is surprised by a girl running cheerfully toward him, happy to see him coming out. The girl praises his cloak, saying it is beautiful, and that she has never seen anything like it in stores, asking if it is a rare piece of equipment. She says it suits him, while he just confirms. Then she comments about her curiosity regarding the people who enter there, ignoring his warning that it was a private dungeon, leaving him confused with her attitude. The girl introduces herself as Tsukigase Tsukasa and says she is 14 years old. He realizes that she is new to this and thinks it is unusual to see adventurers so young in Tokyo. Another person approaches, praising his strength and asking to exchange contacts. He refuses to exchange contacts, saying he does not even know her. The girl introduces herself as a rank B assassin, surprising him since she has a higher rank than his, and insists she needs a partner to explore dungeons. She explains that her friends and fellow adventurers think the places she wants to explore are too dangerous and do not accompany her. He realizes that she is the opposite of him, with skills too high to easily form a team. When asked about exploring alone, she replies that being alone is lonely. He agrees to exchange contacts but warns her not to call him all the time. Looking at his profile, she discovers that his name is Kojura. He is 21 years old, and he is a trap master, reacting excitedly. She becomes enthusiastic about exploring with someone like him and runs off saying she will message him later. Watching her, he comments that she really seemed like a storm. Back in the city, he thinks that he will find more adventurers like her, and that it is good not to be famous outside Tokyo. When he arrives, he is received and comments that he can handle something of slightly higher rank, and they already arranged the next challenge. He calls Rise and asks if she would accept something, handing her a ring. Surprised, she takes it with a shocked expression. Confused and blushing, Rise stares at the ring and asks Keiichiro what he thinks it means when a man gives a woman a ring. He apologizes and explains that he did not mean anything by it, seeing the ring only as equipment. Risei asks why he gave it to her then, and he says that today's dungeon felt like an important step for him. Even though he said it was a sponsor's gift, the moment still felt special. He explains that he wanted Risei to keep that memory, and that he wanted to share it with her. Risei comments that in the end, nothing really changed much. Then, she asks if he is saying that the lady should put the ring on by herself. He places the ring on Risei's left ring finger, and she reacts in surprise. Later, alone, he remembers the girl he met earlier, Tsukigaze. He receives a call from Tsukigaze, who invites him to join a temporary group the next day, saying everyone is about the same level as him. Even hesitating because it is with random people, he considers that clearing a dungeon with a team would be ideal. He imagines being surrounded by strangers and tells her to go alone, because if she goes with him, they would probably refuse. But she insists, saying she wants to go with him and that the group leader was friendly, so everything would be fine. She arranges to meet him the next day, and he says he will only join if the leader approves. The next moment, the leader confirms enthusiastically, shouting that he is in. The group gathers, and the leader says that since he was introduced by Tsukigaze, everything is fine. The protagonist asks if he would still be accepted even as a trap master, and the leader cheerfully replies that at their level, it does not matter much. The group praises the protagonist, saying that he seems like an honest person, something essential for trusting someone inside a dungeon. Tsukigaze assures him that they are good people, and everyone sets off excitedly to raid the dungeon together. The protagonist notices something strange, quickly turns around, and sees that the group is already moving away, leaving together. The protagonist observes the team members and feels something odd, not understanding what it was. Suddenly, he receives a warning that enemies are coming his way, and that he must hold his position as wolves rapidly approach. The protagonist sees that everyone is strong, especially Tsukigaze, who moves with speed and without wasting movements. He realizes that with that level of body control at such a young age, she has the potential to become an elite adventurer. At that moment, she shouts for him to prepare the trap. He warns that the trap is already ready, surprising the others who praise his work. While the enemies are defeated, he wonders if that strange feeling earlier was just his imagination. The group talks about resting, but Tsukigaze is already excited for the next fight. The group moves forward through the forest, commenting that the boss room must be nearby. As they look around, one of the members thinks to himself that it is time for something to happen. The man attacks by surprise, striking the protagonist. He then grabs the girl, saying that even a high-level assassin, when captured, is nothing more than weak. Meanwhile, he taunts the protagonist not to interfere, implying that he would not stand a chance of stopping him. The protagonist senses the strange feeling from earlier and concludes it was the sound of high-level equipment, something he has heard many times. He accuses the man of disguising the equipment to look low-level. Surprised, the man asks if he has some kind of appraisal skill to figure that out just by looking. The protagonist accuses the three of being bandits, realizing that they have high-level equipment and movements inconsistent with what they pretended to be. The girl, frightened, understands that they were lured on purpose by pretending to be at the same level. He asks how many people they killed to obtain that equipment. The bandit says the disguise made the protagonist drop his guard and that, being a trap master, he could not do much anyway. The girl, shocked, regrets trusting him. The man mocks, saying no one would team up with someone without rare equipment, laughing cruelly. He explains that when he heard they would bring another person, he was relieved it was only a trap master, thinking it would be easy to deal with. The girl, restrained, asks her brother to run and warn the others outside. He says he is fine since he is strong, but the bandit mocks, claiming a trap master could never escape. The man with glasses taunts, telling them not to give impossible orders. The girl cries out that it is her fault for involving her brother, and fears that he will die there too. The protagonist only looks and apologizes. With swords pointed at him, the boy watches silently. The girl, about to cry, thinks that she finally believed she would not be alone anymore, but now sees that hope falling apart. The boy's gaze remains steady. The boy apologizes to Tsukiga, but states that he has no intention of running. He says that the path he chose does not allow him to ignore people like those in front of him. The man angrily asks what the boy just said. He calmly replies that he called him worthless trash. Furious, the enemy orders him killed, calling him a weakling with a useless job. The boy quickly activates a trap called Arrow Sigil, surprising the enemy. One of the attackers is launched into the air, while the boy already prepares his next move. The enemy thrown into the air screams in panic, while the boy moves quickly to strike another opponent. One of the men tries to react with his sword, but is caught off guard and injured. The boy lands a precise blow on one of the enemies before he can react. He says that even with rare equipment, the man is still just rank C and reacted too late. The other enemy, furious, glares at him with rage. The boy faces the remaining enemy, while one of the hostages collapses to the ground injured. The man realizes that if he touches the arrow sigil, he is finished, and he hesitates before attacking. The boy uses a flash grenade, blinding the enemy, who charges while roaring. Taking advantage of the opening, he dodges and counterattacks quickly, striking the adversary. The enemy, enraged, claims he has fought in sandstorms and underwater, guaranteeing he will not leave an opening. He threatens to kill the boy and take his equipment, while the boy stares at him and tells him to watch closely. The man declares that he became strong by taking equipment from people who mocked them, saying that only those who survive are truly strong, and that he defeated everyone he faced. The boy, however, replies that that is not his strength. The boy advances and says the man lost because of the weakness in his own heart, while pushing him toward the magic seal on the ground. The boy strikes the enemy from behind, while remembering that both of them grew up hearing that in a dungeon, the most important thing is being able to entrust your back to someone. The boy comments that even if it was just a bluff, they were saved. He checks if monsters appeared, but receives a no as a response. With everyone safe, he observes that with all that equipment, the enemy would not die so easily. Then soldiers arrive, and he says that the camouflage cloth helped a lot, since it would be hard to carry everyone back. The girl apologizes to her brother, but he tells her not to worry. She reveals that she was happy to have been invited. Even so, he comments that out of 5 people, only 2 remain and decides to stop for today. She calls out to him again, with a serious look. The girl asks to continue until they can no longer, saying she does not want to end the day like this. She asks if he will explore the dungeon with her, and he, satisfied to see that her spirit remains firm, replies that of course he will. The girl gets excited and pulls the boy to continue. As they move away through the forest, a woman watching from hiding thinks she was ready to intervene if something happened, but sees she did not need to worry. The woman watching decides it is time to write her report. Meanwhile, the boy and the girl face a pack, and she praises his skill, asking if it is some kind of unique technique. He replies that he kept it hidden at first, out of caution. While fighting, he admits that he was not completely honest, and she, smiling, asks if he showed his skill because he fell in love with her. He replies that it was just carelessness, continuing to fight together. The girl runs ahead excitedly, announcing that they have reached the boss room, while he follows. Upon entering, she notices the scenery has not changed much and does not see any boss. He warns her not to let her guard down, saying that sometimes the enemy hides behind the door. The two sense something strange in the air and remain on alert. Suddenly, an enemy appears and attacks quickly, forcing the boy to react and block the strike, while the girl is pushed back by the impact. The girl asks if he saw what just happened, but he denies it, saying he was watching the whole time and could not have missed it. He concludes it probably was not visible to the naked eye, and identifies it as a wolf-type monster, with stealth abilities without a doubt. He identifies the creature as a stealth wolf. Upon hearing the howl, the girl realizes it is calling the others, and he confirms. They realize that the stealth wolf hides while other wolves attack. The boy says the only way to win is to find it and defeat it. The girl understands they are playing a kind of hide-and-seek and rushes forward, locating the enemy. The boy prepares a trap combining arrow, sigil, and flames. Meanwhile, the girl fights several wolves, realizing they keep appearing endlessly. The boy concludes that the spawning is truly infinite. The boy realizes it is difficult to react when the stealth wolf blends in with the pack and may not even be near her. He calls Tsukigaze and asks her to hold the wolves for 10 seconds while he acts. The girl confirms she will hold off the wolves while the boy advances. He activates his trap, combining arrow, sigil, and slash to attack. The boy decides he has set enough traps and dashes forward, while the girl encourages him to move faster and faster, asking him to give it his all. She then calls him by name, ready to act. With most of the pack defeated, the boy says they can now focus on tracking the howl. The girl states that if the monster howls again, she will definitely hear it. The girl sees the wolf preparing an attack and tries to act before it reveals its position, but she is struck violently and screams in pain. The boy praises the girl for enduring, but she says they lost the enemy's location. He replies that it is fine, because he has a plan. Meanwhile, the girl thinks that fighting alongside him is fun, and that this feeling is similar to love. The girl looks at the boy with shining eyes and calls him Kagura Oni-chan, while thinking that maybe this is the true feeling she was searching for. The girl looks at the boy and asks if he wants to officially form a duo with her. The boy thinks he never considered being in a group other than the Holy Sword. The boy thanks her for the offer but asks for time to think, saying they first need to deal with the stealth wolf. They end up losing sight of the enemy, but he says he knows where it is, and that now he only needs Tsukagese's help. The girl smiles and says he is amazing, calling him Oni-chan. He replies that the fight is about to begin, and that he is counting on her. Then, they position themselves in front of the stealth wolf, ready for battle. The stealth wolf leaps to attack, while the boy, confident, says that is exactly why he prepared everything. The two charge together at the stealth wolf, combining their strength while the girl activates the arrow symbol 4 times for the attack. The girl dashes swiftly toward the stealth wolf, while the boy follows closely, both aiming directly at the enemy. The boy watches the wolf's speed, almost impossible to follow, but trusts she will succeed. The girl, determined, shouts for him to advance as she lunges for the attack. The girl rushes through the air with her weapon in hand, while the boy watches with determination. They celebrate their victory, with Tsukigase surprised by the result. Ahead, a massive portal forms, and she comments that she has never cleared such a high-level gate before. Tsukigase smiles and thanks Oni-chan before disappearing. The scene shifts to the front of a building, where someone says they now understand what happened. They gather on a rooftop, relieved that everyone is safe. Natsume, dressed as a maid, explains that when she is not working as an observer, she works as a maid. Kagura comments that he thought it was strange she was not wearing the observer's uniform, while Tsukigase denies that it is just a hobby. During the conversation on the rooftop, he asks if she is nervous and if she gets along with everyone there. Then, he invites her to form a group with him, saying that he still has not heard her answer. She explains that she was once part of a group and that her goal is to reunite with them again, so she does not intend to form an official team. The blonde girl explains that forming a group brings many benefits, such as leveling up faster and improving coordination. She adds that working alone prevents one from learning team combat skills, and that accepting Tsukigase's proposal would help if his goal is to return to the Holy Dot. He questions whether he should take advantage of her kindness, even knowing that he would leave her in the future, but the girl replies that she does not mind. She says that if that is the only way for them to form a group, she will gladly do it, because she does not want to miss the chance to join him over something so trivial. He thinks that he always learns from others, and that if he had to form a group outside of the Holy Sword, it would be with her. He says he would like to form a team with Tsukigase and asks if she would accept following his selfish desire. She answers yes, asking him to fulfill her dream, and he agrees. With that, everyone confirms it is decided. Tsukigase asks if Rize could also join the group. She, surprised, confirms and says she tried to put aside her reservations, asking if Tsukigase would mind. Tsukigase cheerfully replies that the more, the better. Rize accepts, commenting that they need a tank. Tsukigase celebrates excitedly, saying that now it is their group and that it feels like a dream come true. Rize says she will take care of the paperwork and asks what the team's name will be. Tsukigase suggests that the protagonist decide, since he will be the leader, and he begins to think about the name. He thinks for a moment and decides the group's name will be Vestige. He admits to himself that chasing the past is embarrassing, but that this is his greatest motivation at the moment. Then he announces that from now on, they are the members of the party Vestige. Everyone approves of the name, and the girls exchange contact information, celebrating as friends. The blonde girl confirms Tsukigase's information, saying that he is 14 years old, and upon noticing something, is surprised and adds, male. The blonde is shocked to discover that Tsukigase is a boy, while the others laugh at the situation. The scene shifts to the city, where someone comments they heard Keiichiro formed a group. A girl thanks Natsume-senpai for the report and asks her to continue observing a certain boy. She says he is an interesting childhood friend and that she could not refuse her Kuhai's request. She reveals that thanks to her connections, she managed to find him, confirming that he really had not returned home. While gazing at an imposing landscape, the girl calls Keiichiro a stupid adventurer, but admits that she likes that about him, finding him irresistibly cute. Still, she reflects that from what she has heard, he is still not worthy of that place. The girl is surrounded by winged monsters, but remains calm. She unleashes her deadly attack, declaring die, and using the technique Hand of the God of Death, annihilating the enemies. As she watches the monsters fall, the girl says that if Keiichiro is behind them, they must finish before he catches up. Soon after, Yuko reunites with the group, who asks if the path was safe, and she casually replies yes. The group decides to move forward, and Yuko thinks she must keep something secret, believing that Ku would lose focus if she knew. She casts a serious look at the girl before the scene shifts to a large building in the city at night. A girl excitedly comments that it is her first time doing something like this and compliments how good the dress looks on her. The boy, while trying to fix his tie, says he has never been good at it. The girl notices that he is restless and asks about it. Soon, someone asks if they are ready, and she answers yes, appearing dressed up beside him. The trio, now well-dressed, prepares to enter an important event. With confidence, they declare that they are heading to Vestige's first battle. As the narrator explains that raid battles are when several groups unite to face a difficult dungeon with a large team, the trio observes the event. Impressed by the number of participants, one of them comments, and another explains that this time, there are even more people because of the special leadership role. On stage, the raid's organizer, Kiryu Jessica, greets the audience enthusiastically, saying she is happy with the day's turnout. Meanwhile, the trio comments that despite her youthful appearance, she is considered a promising witch and gives off a strong impression of a foreign lady. The group comments that the person responsible for the event is actually Jessica's father, who is sponsoring it to achieve the feat of clearing a high-level dungeon. They wonder if they will receive sponsorship and payment. The boy explains that in raid battles, since there are many people, it is possible to bring 1 or 2 rookies if they are surrounded by capable allies. They explain that the high payment is to gather more skilled adventurers, ensuring that Jessica can complete the conquest. Thus, everyone benefits, experience in a higher-level area, and rewards. The girl comments that it seems unfair, but the boy reminds her that he cannot complain after already being helped by Japan's best group. Jessica says it was an honor to meet so many high-level adventurers, but that they ended up recruiting more people than planned. She then announces that the next day, a selection test will be held to decide who will participate in the raid. The announcement reveals that the test will be through duels, and that among all present, only 20 will be selected. The girl is surprised to learn that some will be sent away, but is told this is normal. While one of them decides to walk around and greet people, she thinks she needs to take the chance to eat as much as possible before the opportunity ends. The boy walks through the hall, remembering that he was expelled from the Holy Sword and fearing that it will cause problems, hoping no one finds out. He finds the environment nostalgic, but realizes he left all social interaction to Ku. Meanwhile, the girl beside him seems worried, wondering what she should do. A school-uniformed girl walks nervously, thinking that she might not be able to participate and telling herself that she must win. The boy watches her and notices that there was another participant as young as Tsukigas. The determined girl clenches her hands nervously but ends up tripping. The girl, distracted and nervous, ends up tripping and dropping a plate of food. The boy tries to warn her, but the two fall to the ground. She apologizes, visibly embarrassed, while he tells her to calm down and asks what made her so desperate. The girl, nervous, reveals that she is a mage and needs to participate in the raid, but is bad at duels. The boy understands and says that this is common among those in the rear guard, admitting that he is also not good at duels, but assures her it is fine. The boy explains that not all who are defeated are sent away, and that if she shows her skills well, she may be accepted even if she loses. He tells her to calm down, put on a good performance, and avoid dropping more food. The girl thanks him, saying that it made her feel calmer. The boy and the girl agree to do their best, but he thinks that being a rank C trapmaster, he practically has to win. In the hall, a girl cheerfully calls for Akeno, saying she is happy that she will participate and that she is her only friend there. Another congratulates her on the organization. Jessica asks Akeno if she is afraid, but says that it is her time to shine, and of course she would be there. She comments that after this, her father would leave the company to her, and that when that happened, they would be equals, while Akeno complains that she is being treated like a child again. A woman says she accepted the trapmaster by Akeno's recommendation, but questions if she is sure of this choice. Akeno replies irritably, while the other insinuates that she is still just a child. The scene then moves to the next day. The next day, during the competition, Keiichiro wins his match. He thinks that he had to use the arrow symbol technique and hopes no one noticed. Commander Hudo curiously observes Keiichiro's attack. Some people comment in surprise about him winning as a trapmaster. Rize runs to congratulate him, and he says it was an easy victory. Then they prepare to cheer for Rize, whose match will be next. As they head to watch the next fight, Rize comments that she has never seen Akeno fight before, and asks if she is a paladin. Keiichiro confirms, but says he has not seen her fight much either. In the arena, it is revealed that the match will be between a mage and a paladin, sparking curiosity about the clash of strength. The battle between the paladin and the mage begins, with the referee giving the signal. Among the audience, Keiichiro recognizes the girl from the day before, while Rize encourages Akeno to do her best. The mage focuses, reminding herself that she needs to put on a good performance. The mage raises her bow and prepares to attack, but there is no visible arrow. The paladin notices this and is surprised, realizing something different is happening. The mage's attack releases an impressive power, leaving everyone astonished. The girl in the audience fears Akeno will not be able to block it, while he thinks he might have given an unnecessary piece of advice. Akeno evaluates that she could dodge the attack, but decides to face it head-on, to show everyone the strength and dignity of a true tank. Akeno manages to block the powerful attack, impressing everyone with her endurance as she is cheered on by her sister. The archer tries to advance to break through Akeno's shield, but the referee interrupts the fight before a direct clash can happen. The judge announces that both passed the test since they showed enough skill. Afterwards, Keiichi says he will leave first, and his sister replies that she is fine. Keiichi meets the girl from the previous fight, who thanks him for the advice and says it helped her not to get nervous. He comments that it is good she showed her strength, and that it is reassuring to have such a powerful ally in the field. She admits she did not know he was that strong as well. The girl introduces herself as Usui Turu and tries to offer something as thanks. Keiichi refuses, saying he did not do it expecting a reward. Keiichi notices something strange and looks at Turu's bag, which is full of keychains with Akeno's image. Keiichi, surprised, calls Turu Yuko, making her immediately react and ask if he really called her that. Turu interrupts Keiichi, saying he cannot call Ashitari Yuko. She explains that this is a special nickname reserved only for close friends, and even shows in a magazine that this is written, reinforcing that fans should respect their idol's wishes. Turu, agitated, repeats that he cannot call Ashitari Yuko. Keiichi, surprised, realizes she is a Yuko fan and is shocked to notice that she is a member of the Holy Sword. The girls are surprised to learn that Keiichi was once part of the Holy Sword. He explains that most of the media exposure went to the group's leader, and that the public probably only knew members like Yuko and Kukuri. He comments that he would not want to be criticized for living in their shadow, while the girls think that is actually a positive thing. Turu insists that Keiichi cannot call Ashitari Yuko, revealing herself as her fan. Keiichi thinks about this in surprise, and explains that the nickname was something he gave her himself, which is why it became a habit. Turu asks in surprise if Keiichi really gave her the nickname, but before he can answer, a girl approaches, cheerfully calling him Keiichiro-kun. Turu repeats his name in shock, realizing the familiarity between them. Turu comments that she had heard Yuko was a nickname given by a childhood friend, but she thought it was just a rumor. Keiichi explains that it was never mentioned in interviews, only told by a fan who met her personally. Turu calls Keiichiro the fourth ghost member of Holy Sword, leaving him embarrassed. He asks not to be given such a shameful title while trying to justify himself by saying there are certain circumstances. Turu reacts in shock upon hearing that Keiichiro was expelled, thinking it would be a scandal for Holy Sword. Keiichiro tries to deny it but ends up looking dejected, while a girl arrives saying, "Sorry for the delay," and notices the awkward mood. Keiichiro admits that he was expelled but asks the girl to keep it secret to avoid problems and not cause further trouble for Holy Sword. She understands, commenting that if people knew he was once a member, they probably wouldn't leave him alone. She agrees not to tell anyone, and he thanks her. After hesitating a little, she asks if he has any pictures with Ashitari-san. While he searches his phone, another girl comments that she is very determined. Upon seeing the photo, the girl begins to tremble with emotion, calling Ashitari-san rare. He thinks he had already heard that the three had very intense fans, but meeting them in person feels strange. The group talks about it being their first time staying in a hotel near a dungeon. They comment that it must be expensive, but then discover the hotel belongs to the Kiryuin family and that the stays are part of her studies, showing that she receives a special education. Then someone notices they are showing a picture of a girl. Two boys recognize Keiichiro and mention Holy Sword, but he is interrupted before being exposed again. Relieved, he thanks the girl for saving him, while another comments about the unusual bag she carries. The two girls ask the younger girl to talk with them too, discovering they are the same age, 14 years old. She explains that she normally lives far away, but joins when there are major invasions like this one, and says she usually works alone. They comment that high-level areas, like the one they are heading to, are very dangerous. The girl says she needs a specific dungeon item called the Blue Elixir, no matter the cost. They explain that the Blue Elixir is an extremely rare drop, sold for at least 1 billion yen. Then, they deduce that she wants the item because someone close to her is sick. The girl reveals that her mother can no longer walk and that the medicine of the current world cannot do anything more to help. She says she is saving money, but getting the item in the raid would be ideal. She thanks Kajura for allowing her to participate and says goodnight before leaving. As they talk about different types of adventurers, Yuko comments that she always ends up helping people. Excited, everyone agrees to give their best the next day, while Kagura thinks he cannot fall behind. The leader announces the start of the raid battle, and all the adventurers prepare, showing determined expressions. The adventurers advance through the desert with pyramids in the background, while one group coordinates attacks. One of them warns that he is sending enemies and asks for traps to be set. Then Kagura destroys a monster with a quick strike, receiving praise. During the battle, some comment that things are going well and that it might be easy, while others remind them not to break formation. Kagura, alert, notices something strange and mentions dangerous names like Murder Mebius, Statue of Heaven's Fall, and Whispering Maris, staying on guard. The man asks him to slow down and save his strength for the boss, saying adventurers always hide their trump cards. He admits he would put him in the main group if he weren't registered as a trap specialist. The boy, realizing he is being valued, asks for a favor in return. He asks that, when they enter the boss room, the main group's tanks take the front line. He explains that usually the advance team takes the first attacks to assess the situation, but he has a bad feeling since dungeons usually have a pattern of monsters, and this place feels different. He comments that he cannot find any common traits between the monsters, and because of that, he cannot predict what the boss will be like, which could be a major problem. The other man acknowledges the point and notices the arrival of the young girl into the group. The man explains that if there is reason for concern, it is even more important to keep the main tanks in reserve. The boy thinks this makes sense, and that the man is prioritizing the employer's safety. While reflecting that he is missing something important, someone announces that they have found the boss room. The group enters a huge chamber with columns resembling giant roots. The girl tells her brother the place is scary. One of the men warns them to be careful since they don't know where the enemy is, while another notes that you don't see things like this in areas you would explore alone. Suddenly, a huge insect-like monster appears above them. One of the men spots it and shouts to form a defense. The protagonist, shocked, recognizes the creature. The protagonist, on high alert, shouts for everyone to dodge as the monster quickly attacks, aiming at the group. The shield-bearer is hit directly by the attack, left gravely wounded as his body is thrown back. The group members are shocked and frozen at the sight of the wounded shield-bearer, while the young mage watches the scene with wide eyes and a shocked expression. The boy realizes too late that all the monsters they had faced so far had enormous attack power, concluding that the enemy ahead is also extremely dangerous. The group holds position, surrounded by marks on the ground, while the young cleric watches the scene with a tense and surprised expression. The group panics upon seeing that an ally was killed, and the monster quickly blocks the only exit, trapping everyone inside. During the monster's attack, the group tries to retreat. The boy orders the cleric to advance, explaining that the creature, called Death Mantis, attacks nearby enemies with its blades. The group realizes the imminent danger. If no one stays close to the creature, it will attack randomly, putting everyone at risk. There are screams and confusion when some notice that even children are in the combat zone. A warrior orders them to stay behind him for protection, but tension rises when they realize there are not enough tanks to cover every side. The original strategy required 2 tanks, each handling one of the creature's blades, while the rest formed a safe attack line behind them. However, with one of the tanks already down, the formation is compromised, and the chance of many deaths rises quickly. Reese offers to hold one side, raising his shield with determination. His companion warns him about the enemy's enormous attack power, and says she cannot guarantee his shield will withstand the impact, but still asks if he will go through with it. The knight confirms that they just need to follow his instructions, but is interrupted by a desperate cry of refusal. The mage, with tears in her eyes, reacts visibly shaken by the situation. The mage tries to stop the knight from advancing, warning that it would mean her death as well. The knight, however, faces the situation firmly, saying that there are times when a lady must act, and continues determined to face the danger. The warrior and the knight charge together, ready to face the enemy. He raises his shield and shouts for the creature to come at him, taking the front line with determination. The young man blocks the powerful attack with his shield, absorbing the impact as the force of the strike makes the ground tremble. The knight watches from a distance, realizing the seriousness of the situation. The impact of the blow is so intense that the young man feels the crushing force of the enemy, realizing he is facing one of the strongest bosses of its category. He understands he must redirect each attack with precision, or he will be defeated. Meanwhile, some observers watch impressed at his resistance. While some warriors attack from a distance to provide cover, others run to assist up close. The young man maintains his firm defense, sweating under the tension of the battle. The healers are ordered not to stop and to keep restoring his energy without pause, as the fight continues intensely. The young man continues blocking heavy attacks, but begins to feel the weight of the battle and lets out a groan of pain. Two companions watch the situation and realize the defense will not last much longer, fearing he will be overwhelmed if it continues. A young girl charges forward quickly at the enemy, determined to at least distract it for a moment. She runs with sword in hand, aiming for an attack that might open an opening for the others. She manages to land a quick strike, receiving praise from afar, but is soon caught off guard by a brutal counterattack. The impact throws her back forcefully, and she realizes the imminent danger as she sees the creature preparing to strike her again. At the last moment, she is saved by Tsukigas, who pulls her out of the path of the attack. Meanwhile, an enemy watches the scene with anger and menace, preparing to retaliate. The girl asks if the other is all right and thanks her for the help. Surprised, she questions if the ally used stealth and wonders how it is possible to have an assassin's skill while being a mage. Meanwhile, an ally calls out for USUI in the middle of the battle. One of the fighters says he will try to hold the creature's arms for a moment and asks if the other can get close and cast a spell from inside the shell. The group reacts in surprise to the idea, commenting that it would be risky and that she would be in danger if she missed. The boy asks them not to die and charges into the attack, grabbing the enemy's blades tightly. An ally shouts for him not to let go. The boy activates his magic, creating a magic sigil while holding the enemy in place. The girl takes advantage of the opening and charges to attack. The spell is cast with force, creating a massive explosion of light and energy that strikes the enemy as everyone watches the impact. The attack is successful, making everyone cheer. One of them says that now they only need to destroy the other arm to continue the fight. The warrior's shield is destroyed, leaving her vulnerable. The enemy prepares to strike, while an ally shouts her name in alarm. The boy, already exhausted and at his limit, watches as the girl runs toward her sister, crying out for her in the middle of danger. A massive explosion occurs, and two allies watch the scene with concern as they try to understand what happened. The young mage charges forward determinedly, protecting the warrior behind her as she prepares her staff to attack. The mage, with tears in her eyes, cries out that she will not let anyone else die, while her allies call for her in concern. The mage charges forward, screaming, and unleashes a powerful attack, causing a massive explosion while protecting the ally behind her. The attack is deflected, and one of the allies shouts that this is their chance. A fighter then uses a technique called Shadow Stitch to immobilize the enemy. The mage realizes she will only be able to maintain the immobilization for an instant, and, with little mana remaining, casts her attack, hoping it will be enough. The attack hits squarely, tearing off the enemy's arm. The allies cheer as they see that both arms have been taken down. With the enemy's two arms destroyed, the group charges forward to attack non-stop. Meanwhile, Rizel approaches carrying the mage, and the warrior confirms that she is fine. Rizel shows relief upon seeing that the warrior is safe. Jessica thanks him emotionally, while the allies praise her and tell her she can retreat now. The creature begins moving strangely, leaving the group confused. Some wonder if they had really defeated it and what was going on. Several smaller creatures appear and begin devouring the body of the fallen monster. One of the allies realizes that it was their father, leaving the group shocked and uneasy. The group notices that the creatures are transforming into adults, but one of the leaders urges them not to retreat, assuring them there is still time to defeat them before they fully grow. The leader orders everyone to advance against the creatures. Jessica prepares to attack again, while Rizel comments that they cannot stay out of the fight. Rizel asks if Kagura is also out of mana, and she confirms it. He then offers the little he has left so that they can perform one last attack together, trusting her to finish the blow. Rizel charges toward the enemy, knowing he can no longer defend himself with his ability, but determined not to miss the next strike. Rizel leaps toward the enemy, raising his sword with strength and preparing to deliver a decisive blow. One of the warriors notices that some of the creatures have disappeared, and soon they all see a portal forming in the center of the battlefield. Surprised, they identify it as a gate. The group celebrates victory, exhausted but relieved, as Rizel leans on his sword and smiles, surrounded by allies shouting with joy. The warriors exchange looks of relief, while the group gathers before the gate. As they leave, someone comments that they managed to come back alive from this battle. The group participates in a ceremony under the starry sky, paying tribute to a fallen comrade. After placing ashes in their right hand, They say they will return him to his family and that it was good to have everyone's presence there. Riesel reflects that he was the only one to know that monster and regrets not realizing the dungeon's pattern earlier. Even while blaming himself, he acknowledges that everyone did their best and that only God could have changed the outcome. Riesel thinks that each of the allies could have acted on their own without putting the group in so much danger. He admits that he is still weak and that he almost let something unforgivable happen to them. Deep in thought, Riesel wonders what he must do to reach the other's level. As he reflects, he notices an origami flying and sees a figure watching from a distance. The mysterious woman smiles gently while holding the origami, watching Riesel with a calm and enigmatic look. Riesel recognizes the woman, calling her Kukuri. She asks for silence, comments that he seems troubled, and invites him to talk elsewhere. Kukuri says that even after going through this many times, she never gets used to someone's death. She notices that Kagura also isn't well, and he admits he hadn't seen her since a certain significant day. Kagura apologizes for leaving without saying goodbye, and Kukuri admits she is still upset about it. She suggests that maybe he misunderstood or felt awkward, but quickly says she doesn't have much time and goes straight to the point. Kukuri reveals that in winter, they will make the first attempt at the Origin Gate. Surprised, Kagura confirms that they are finally going through with it. Kukuri explains that there will be a selection test in autumn to decide which groups will support the expedition, and only rank of parties can participate. She warns him that if he wants to try, he must hurry. Before leaving, she reveals that she sneaked out just to meet him, and quickly returns before being discovered. Kagura asks why she told him all that. Kukuri responds vaguely, saying she wanted him to be safe, but admits she was happy to know he was working hard and giving his best. Kagura calls out to Kukuri and, emotional, apologizes for not going to see her before. He admits he was afraid of facing her, but declares that he will no longer run away. Kagura shouts that he will become stronger, capable of standing by her side, and makes a promise with conviction. Kukuri smiles, saying he seems to have cheered up a little, and admits she is glad to have met him again. Kagura stands firmly, emanating determination. Shortly after, a mysterious hand appears, reaching him quickly as a voice approves of his resolve. A woman with long hair watches Kagura and comments that she likes young men who don't know how to give up. Then, looking at him, she asks if it is already time for the next challenge. Kagura wakes up after resting for 2 whole days and gives thanks for his recovery. When asked, he confirms that he is better thanks to the care he received. A woman comments that adventurers usually say the same, while another wonders why healing magic makes people tired. Rise comments that his lady also became tired after the expedition, but she says she doesn't show weakness so easily. Then, Rise says that there is something important to discuss, and he would like Tsukuge's to participate too, though he doesn't know if he has already woken up. Then, someone observes that it was the first time Tsukuge's faced the death of a teammate, making the situation concerning. A girl runs, calling her brother and sister, excited to meet them again. Meanwhile, the group talks about how it is inevitable to deal with losses in this life of adventure, though it is always difficult. They ask Rise how he is feeling, and he replies that he is fine now, remembering that when he went through it the first time, he was bedridden for days. Shortly after, they thank him for visiting his hometown. The girl thanks them, saying she is fine and asking them not to worry. Then, everyone gathers sitting around a table, while she, thoughtful, mentions the Origin Gate. As they talk, the group is surprised by the mention of the Origin Gate. It is said that for a long time, no one dared to enter there, until the renowned group Holy Sword appeared. One of them comments that conquering the gate was always that group's dream, and says that when they reach the point of challenging that ambition, he wants to be by their side no matter what. The girl says that he will be able to fulfill that wish if their group is chosen to fight alongside the Holy Sword, asking him not to be sad. One of the boys explains that if Team Vestige is selected as a participant, they will have to go to Tokyo and enter the Origin Gate directly, a challenge far more dangerous than anything they have faced before. One of them recalls that the last expedition showed the risk of life when entering dungeons, and asks if they really want to continue down that path or look for something else, urging them to think carefully. He warns that the decision will determine whether Team Vestige will be dissolved right then and there. The protagonist responds without hesitation. He will go. The girl reminds him that it was a promise, and says that they will still see much of the adventurer's world together, assuring that she won't back down now. Another comments that this could even make history, besides being an extraordinary opportunity for the Rise family. The girl says she saw something in him when she decided to buy him, and adds that she believes it is a bet worth making, suggesting that they face this together. The boy watches her in silence, deep in thought. The boy thanks her and says that even though he had said it would be dangerous, he promises he will not let anyone die. The girls watch him in silence as he concludes, "Then let's go." Rise explains that the current goal of the group is to become a rank A team. For that he, as the leader, must first reach rank A as an adventurer. The girl asks how that is possible, and he replies that it is necessary to have the record of completing a high-level dungeon. She then asks if they could do that with only 3 people. Tsukige says he would like to believe they can, but admits it would be difficult. He explains that clearing a dungeon with a full raid, as they did before, is one thing, but to do it with an orthodox team composition, they would need 1 or 2 more members. He shows the formation scheme and points out that the group especially needs someone to act in the rearguard. The girl comments that since they plan to go to the origin gate, it cannot be just anyone joining them. Everyone agrees, and at the same time, they all think of a specific person. They decide to say it together, revealing that the same person came to mind for all 3. The 3 say together the name of the person they thought of, USUI. Right after, the scene shows USUI herself, holding a card in her hands, with a serious and mysterious expression. USUI talks with a man named Hudu. She thanks him for the list of collected items and notices that, once again, the blue elixir was not among them. Hudo confirms that she read everything and comments that it's always good to have strong adventurers together. USUI thanks him for the invitation, saying that she usually doesn't have many chances to participate in big events, and asks to be contacted again next time. A man comments that the members of Vestige want to meet USUI. She accepts and allows them to pass along her address and phone number, as well as the name of the hospital where she is staying, in case it's urgent. While wondering about their interest, her uncle appears, calling for her. USUI asks about her mother's condition, and her uncle replies that she had just fallen asleep but was feeling well that day. She asks him to continue taking care of her, while her uncle asks if she will return to exploring. USUI confirms, saying she needs to find another high-level dungeon as soon as possible. Yusui's uncle asks her to abandon the adventurer's life, saying it's already time to stop. He comments that he heard someone died on her last mission and apologizes for putting her in danger just for the sake of her younger sister. The uncle says that at her age, she should be having fun with friends, not living like that. He adds that she shouldn't suffer too. In tears, USUI murmurs the word suffer and begins to respond to her uncle, calling him softly. USUI runs out desperately, while her uncle shouts for her to wait. She apologizes, saying she has to go, stumbles on the way, but keeps running. Outside the hospital, 2 characters watch the situation in surprise. Breathless and distressed, USUI begs them to let her into the car. Yusui's uncle tries to stop her, but she quickly gets into the car. Inside, she thanks the group and assures them that she is fine. One of the girls asks if she is sure of her decision, and USUI answers yes, promising to talk properly with her uncle next time. She says that he is a good person and will understand. The scene shifts to the group already gathered in an open field, sitting together. USUI listens to the group talk about the origin gate while eating an onigiri. The boy says she can take her time thinking about the decision, since it is a lot to take in. In silence, USUI squeezes the snack and reveals that the onigiri was given to her by her father. USUI talks about her father, saying that he is incredible, works a lot, takes care of all the housework, and loves her mother. While walking, she says that she doesn't see the act of adventuring and exploring dungeons as a disgrace. USUI looks at Kagura with determination and says that this could be the chance to save her mother, and that she would accept any help to achieve that. Then, firmly, she asks, "Please, let me join Vestige." Kagura listens to USUI asking to join them at the origin gate, and says that in any dungeon in Tokyo where they could find an elixir, he would accept. He reflects that every adventurer is loved by someone and carries those feelings with them, and that he needs to live up to that responsibility. Kagura declares that they will go together, motivated to find the blue elixir. USUI smiles emotionally, while he promises that she will return safely to her mother. USUI bows respectfully and says that she is looking forward to working with them. Kagura and the others welcome her, marking the beginning of their new journey together. A monster is defeated amid the wreckage. A girl appears and coldly comments that it is a pity because they were too slow. The girl receives a notification and realizes that it is already time for the renewal of her A-rank adventurer's license. She complains that she will have to train again and that the association's branch is very far away. Grumbling, she says that she still needs to help her grandmother at home and that all of this is very bothersome. The girl walks with a serious expression, carrying a bag on her shoulders, while venting alone that she just wanted to move to Tokyo soon. The group Holy Sword returns from a cleanup mission, and one of the members announces their return. They comment that they managed to reduce a lot of the uncontrolled area in northern Kanto. An older man reflects that if the monsters behave and stay on the other side of the portals, he could finally spend more time with his grandson. One of the girls calls him president, and comments in surprise that he is already quite elderly. The president looks out at the city through the window, where the gigantic black portal rises on the horizon. He comments that the time has come to attack the core. Then, one of the girls reflects on the dangerous mission that is about to come, calling it the expedition to the Origin Gate. One of the women remembers the day the gate appeared in Tokyo, saying that she will never forget it. The president questions whether defeating the Origin Gate would make the others close as well. He admits that he is not sure, saying that it is only a hypothesis, although the energy leaking from the gate clearly affects the space around it. In the end, he assumes that they are all betting without guarantees of success. One of the women states that she will do anything to help the people. The president says that he will also do his best to support them, but admits that he doesn't know how many adventurers will actually show up since the recruitment announcement was made. Another man comments that the situation is not promising, as many are afraid. Even so, one of the women remains confident that by autumn, there will be adventurers willing to join. Kagura thanks them for having come along with him. The girl replies that he didn't need to thank them, since she also needed to renew her license. Meanwhile, they arrive at the place, and he comments that it is very helpful to have someone who knows the region well to accompany him. They arrive at the Adventurers Association, Hokuriku branch. Kagura comments that he had never been there before. At the counter, the attendant confirms that they are there for the renewal of the A-rank license and directs them to the skill measurement room. At the counter, the attendant addresses Kagura, and he asks to take the A-rank exam. Surprised, she confirms if he really wants to take this exam, since there has never been a trap master trying to reach that level. After analyzing, she comments that he has reached the recommended level, but is still impressed that he wants to advance directly. The attendant explains that, to skip rank, he will need to win 3 times in a row. She also asks if he has ever used a high-level duel arena before, and Kagura confirms that yes, several times. She then instructs him to head to the indicated place. Kagura notes that he can only enter the room once a day, so he will need to come for 3 consecutive days. He thinks about the A-rank exam, reflecting that he will face either another candidate or a full A-rank adventurer. Even so, he decides that there is nothing left but to try. The girl enters the training room sighing, saying that she just wants to win quickly and go back home. Upon seeing the plaque, she discovers who her opponent will be, a trap master, something that surprises her a lot. The boy observes the plaque with the name of his opponent, a swordswoman named Kazari Kyoko. He thinks that this is the first obstacle he needs to overcome to reach his goals. He reflects that in Japan there are only 5 people recognized as S rank, which means that the A rankers are already among the best of the best. He analyzes the opponent's style, a vanguard of the fencer type, specialized in speed, and concludes that he will be able to defend against her attacks, but landing a counterattack will be very difficult. The 2 competitors face each other inside the arena while the voice announces for them to get ready. The girl recognizes that her opponent is a trap master and remembers that she has faced many of them at lower levels, although they almost never appeared in A-rank exams. Still, she decides that it doesn't matter and remains confident for the confrontation. The fight begins with the girl focused on avoiding the opponent's traps. She charges into the attack with determination, while the opponent quickly sets up a trap to counterattack. The duel continues intense, with the girl advancing quickly so as not to give the enemy any space. The boy tries to fight directly to lure her into his traps, but realizes her strength, confirming that she was as powerful as he imagined. While they exchange blows, he discreetly activates another trap, preparing for the next move. The boy activates an arrow symbol directly on his body, surprising the opponent. She is shocked to realize that he used his own traps that way, something uncommon. He thinks that he needs to surprise her even more, while she questions if he wouldn't be hit as well by activating such a dangerous trap so close. The girl is startled to see the boy activating his trap on his own body. Then, he uses the impulse of the symbol to move forward at high speed, surprising her with the swiftness of the movement and closing the distance between them in an instant. While she reacts startled, with no time to understand how he managed such speed in the attack. The girl screams furiously not to be underestimated, charging forward with all her strength. An explosive impact fills the arena, raising energy and dust all around. while the boy stands firm against the sudden and intense attack. The girl, panting and sweating, stares at him closely, still trying to maintain the offensive, but is surprised by the calm and determination in his gaze. The girl manages to dodge by a hair's breadth, escaping the blow, even after triggering the trap. He watches surprised, impressed with her speed and reflexes, recognizing that even for a fencer, escaping like that was something out of the ordinary. The boy realizes that it's useless to keep setting traps if she can dodge even after they are triggered. The opponent, analyzing the situation, concludes that this arrow symbol is really troublesome and decides she needs to attack from a safe angle, where she won't be hit by it. Both face each other, studying the next move as the fight heats up even more. The girl quickly draws 2 firearms, revealing that she can also fight from a distance. The boy notices the change in strategy and is surprised by her versatility. Right after, she fires, showing that her weapons work well, even at a good distance, forcing him to stay extra alert, not to be caught off guard. The boy feels the pressure of the fight increasing, but decides that he cannot let the battle drag on. Gathering his energy, he mixes the trap symbol with a direct strike, creating an unexpected and powerful combination. The girl notices the technique and is shocked to see that he managed to fuse the symbols, making the attack even more unpredictable and difficult to avoid. The boy launches another trap, combined with his attack, creating a devastating impact zone. However, the girl reacts impressively, leaping at the right moment and escaping the blow. He watches surprised, questioning how someone could be so fast and attentive, while she, staring firmly at him, provokes by asking how a trap master could miss against her. The boy combines his arrow symbol with flames, creating explosive projectiles that fly toward the girl. She quickly realizes the danger and understands that he can create ranged attacks by merging his traps. Recognizing that she is facing someone who fights like a mage, she changes her way of thinking and prepares herself. Recalling all previous battles against mages and determined not to lose to another one, the boy notices the opponent's movement and realizes that she is coming from above. In an instant, several magical spears appear and fire toward her, surrounding her in the air and making her position extremely dangerous. The boy thinks quickly about preparing another trap with the arrow symbol, but before he can act, the girl faces him firmly and declares that she won't allow him to continue, showing her determination to break his combat rhythm. The fight intensifies, and the boy is hit by the girl's attack, letting out a groan of pain. He tries to defend himself with his sword as her blades and pressure fall relentlessly upon him, showing that he is beginning to lose ground. The boy thinks about the disadvantage he is in. The girl's speed, strength, and even stamina surpass his. He feels the pressure of close combat and realizes that he is cornered. The girl, confident, stares down at him and declares that this is the end for him, telling him to give up. The boy, even under pressure, thinks that he cannot give up. He silently apologizes, saying that he needs to win that fight to be able to meet someone important again. With determination, he remembers that he found only one clue and that now it is all or nothing.